So you've got a BrightSign player. It's plugged in, there's a screen on the wall, and your React app is sitting on your laptop. And before we deploy anything, we need to answer the first real question: where is my player?
We don't know why the lights align, but
because this is the bit that feels strange if you come from front-end development. Usually your app is on localhost, your browser is on the same machine, you change the code, refresh the page, and there it is. But a BrightSign player is not another browser tab. It is a separate device on the network. It has its own operating system, its own runtime, its own IP address, and its own diagnostic web server. So before WallRun can deploy to it, debug it, or treat it as a target, we need to find it. That is what the Player Discovery Scan is for. In the repo, this lives as a workflow skill called Player Discovery Scan. The job is simple: scan the local network, look for BrightSign players, fingerprint what responds, then update the local player config that WallRun uses for deployment. So let's run the basic version first, pm discover. With no extra arguments, WallRun auto-detects your local private subnet. Then it scans the network for BrightSign diagnostic services. It checks the usual ports: 8008 first, then 8080, then 80, then 443. And as it runs, you will see the scan progress, how many hosts it has checked, how many players it has found. If a BrightSign player responds, WallRun does not just say something is there, it tries to identify it. It checks BrightSign specific endpoints, it looks for diagnostic web server markers, it looks for device info. It tries to pull out useful details like the model, serial number, firmware, and name. Then you get the important part: a summary table, IP address, model, serial, firmware, name. That is the moment the screen starts becoming a real target. If you already know the likely IP address, you do not need to scan the whole subnet. You can probe one host directly. pm discover --host 192.168.0.42. That is the better first move when the router gives you an address, or when someone has labeled the player, or when you are debugging one specific device. And if it does not show up, you can add verbose mode. pm discover --host 192.168.0.42 verbose. Now, WallRun shows you why the probe is failing. Maybe the player is on a different VLAN, maybe the firewall is blocking it, maybe local DWS is not enabled, maybe the network is doing client isolation. This is not magic, it is networked hardware, so the boring network details still matter. But WallRun gives you a workflow, instead of making you guess. When discovery succeeds, WallRun writes the result into .brightsign/players.json. That file is local, it is git ignored. You do not commit real player IPs into the repo, and it follows the schema in .brightsign/players.schema.json. That schema is important because it defines what a deployment target actually is. A player needs a name, it needs an IP address or host name. It can have a port. By default, that is 8008, and it can also carry useful details like model, serial number, description, and tags. So instead of a random IP address floating around in someone's terminal history, you get a named target, something like dev player, or lobby player, or conference room A. Now we can check what WallRun knows about our players. pm player list. This reads the local player config and prints the registered BrightSign players. You will see the name, you will see the IP and port. If Discovery found them, you will see the model and serial number too. And one of those players can be the default. That means later, when we deploy, WallRun knows where to send the app. This is the difference between guessing and having a workflow. You do not want to say, deploy to whatever 192.168 thing I found earlier. You want to say, deploy to dev player, deploy to lobby player, deploy to the screen you actually mean. And if Discovery does not find anything, the next step is not panic, it is diagnosis. Are you on the same network as the player? Is the player powered on? Is local DWS enabled? Is port 8008 reachable? Can you hit the diagnostic endpoint directly? Because once the player responds, even with something simple, everything changes. The wall stops being abstract. It is no longer just a screen, it is a network target, a name target, a target WallRun can deploy to. And that is the point of this step. We are not building a spreadsheet of devices for fun. We are creating the bridge between React code on your laptop and software running on a physical screen. Find the player, confirm it responds, write it into local config, give it a name, make it a target. That is the foundation. Because once WallRun knows where the player is, the next step is obvious. Now we can send the app to it. And that is where this starts to feel less like fighting hardware and more like shipping software. Join us in our next video to find out more.